Okay, um, time for an update. We have quite a few things going on right now. The majority of them, I will say, we are trying to put out fires. I'm going to start with the property and probably only talk about this one for now. And then another video, I'll talk about a couple of the other things that are happening right now. So for the first one, this is a property that we purchased subject to, I want to say last April-ish in Colorado. We had a hard time finding somebody to purchase it on seller finance. So what we ended up doing was after a lady had failed the underwriting process to buy it on a owner finance, we ended up selling it to her on a lease option. If you don't know what a lease option is where you basically let the buyer, right? So essentially they're going to look to buy the property after a certain amount of time of leasing the property. So in this instance, we had a 2-year lease option, which after the first year, they have an option to extend for another year of lease at the same payment. And then after 2 years of leasing the property, they have the first right of refusal to purchase the property at a predetermined price. And so they have to give us what they call an option fee, which is basically locking in their ability to purchase that house at a certain price in 2 years. So we agreed upon terms, and she was getting out of a rough situation. I won't get into details because it's private. But let's just say she needed out of a situation and was willing to move cross country to do that. So we were able to help her out by, not really caring too much about her credit. But she had a job that was paying well and it was remote and she could do it from home. So fast forward, probably 6 months. She would be paying in advance, pretty much monthly. And we were, super happy about that. And we were always willing to work with her if she had some sort of late payment, right? Because she would pay on time for a certain amount of months. So we gave her the benefit of that when she was late, and she would make it up. And it brings us to where we are today. 3 months ago, a payment was missed, and we tried working with her and obviously gave her the benefit of the doubt to try to make that up. And so she would pay a little bit towards the lease, and then say she would pay the rest at a later date, and which she was normally pretty good about it. And then one day, as we were messaging her, emailing her, asking her like, hey, we still haven't received payment. Do you know when we should expect it? Delay. So after, I think it was either 2 missed payments or 1 missed payment in 2 weeks, we ended up sending her a letter basically saying, hey, look, we've tried to receive payment from you, but you're still not paying, and so we have to let you know that you're in default of your agreement. And that did not sit well with the leasee. She then started accusing us of doing things that were illegal and taking money from her and accusing us of stuff that clearly we had communicated from the very beginning about the situation and how it all worked, and that since she was preparing to purchase the property, it would be treated as such, and she would take care of the the stuff that needed to be taken care of at the house. So, we had the appliances looked at prior to her moving in, and they were all in working condition. And everything was good. And so, once we sent that notification that she was in default of her agreement, she got kind of aggressive, and rightly so. She has a lot going on. I found out that she had some health issues that we were unaware of that had happened to her, along with getting a new job and a couple other things, which leads us to today. Multiple times she had said she wants out of the lease, and then a week later, hey, I want to work on it and catch up the payments and stay in the house. And then I want out of the lease, and then I want to catch up payments, and my job is I got a second job and I'm able to catch up the back payments and so forth. And so earlier this week, we had contacted her, finally got her on the phone to have a discussion, and she was very positive that she wanted to keep the house and make up the payments, and that her I guess the story a couple months ago was that her tax refund was coming back and she'd be able to catch up payments. So of course we said, okay, we'll wait to get that payment and move forward. Never got it. So that led us to reaching out to her this past weekend, and she was on board as far as catching up payments. And literally the next day, because we had said, okay, cool, please give it to us in writing what your plan is as far as catching up and getting back into the swing of things. When we contacted her the next day to see whether or not she had sent that document in, she once again changed her mind and now wants out of the lease. The lease is technically it's good until August, I believe. And so at August, she has the opportunity to either renew or to vacate. Right? It's pretty simple in the lease agreement. Well, we're in June, and she tells us she wants out. She's going to check out June 30, and we can pick up the keys that day, and she'll be out. She's saying that rent across the street is lower, which it is, but this is not a rent. This is you're preparing to purchase the property, and so the price that we determined kind of dictates that. It shows that this is what, a mortgage payment, even with VA interest rates, which they planned on using, was still going to be more than what our payment is now. So it didn't make sense. But anyways, I digress. So she wants out of the lease, and here we are for the last 4 or 5 months, 6 months, working with her on trying to do whatever we can to make it easier for her, as long as she communicates. Obviously we can't change the payment schedule, but we're willing to take payments over the amount that's due or owed, that's in default, if she were just to pay the monthly payment. So we have since reached out to the attorney who has drafted the lease agreement, trying to figure out what our options are. She had put a security deposit down when she first got in, which is being held in the account, and I don't know if she expects to get that back. She doesn't really communicate. She doesn't really say what she wants. And my partner, being as awesome as they are, he is holding them accountable per the agreement. So once she decided that she wanted out of the agreement, we're going to go straight to the agreement and say, okay, look, we tried working with you for the last 6 months on getting things squared away and trying to help you out. And now you're basically saying you want out of the lease without any sort of penalties. Now, as much of a softie as I am, and I have empathy towards people, and unfortunately, if in business, if you act like that way all the time, people will take advantage of you. And clearly we think she's trying to take advantage of us, which thank God I have a partner who's very businesslike and is not going to let that happen. So per our agreement, she would be responsible for making up the last payments that she's in default of. And technically, she's also responsible for paying any subsequent payments for July and August. She hasn't paid April, May, and now June, so she's 3 months behind, plus July and August. So technically, per the agreement, she should be responsible for paying all of those costs. Now, we're waiting to hear back from the attorney. As you guys probably know, attorneys aren't always the best communicators, nor do they respond to phone calls and emails as quickly as us investors would like, especially when we're in a certain situation with a property. But we're going through the proper channels to see what our options are. Lease options are a great idea. I think if we were to do it differently next time, I don't know exactly what we would do. Obviously, I think we would check the job history, and I think when we filled this house with this person, I think we were kind of at a place. I can't speak for everybody, but at least my thought process was we needed to get somebody in the property as quickly as possible because we're responsible for making these mortgage payments for as long as somebody's not in the property. Because that's what we signed up for when we purchased this house by taking over their mortgage payments. It's our job to make sure that mortgage gets paid. And so moving forward, I don't know. Maybe we wouldn't try to capitalize so much on the actual rent rate. Not that we're making a ton, but our cost or our lease payment to them or their lease payment to us is definitely above market rent. But our mortgage payment is also above market rent, right? I mean, even though we have a 3.8% interest rate, they bought the property at an elevated price back in 2022 when the cost of homes were ridiculous. So long term, yes, it's a great deal interest rate wise. If we were to find somebody who wanted to live in the house and take over the existing payment. Now, one option that I thought of doing, and I still think about doing it, is selling the property with the underlying loan. Basically just selling it, like say we have a $400,000 balance at, a 3.875. Maybe the house is worth, 410, 415. Like there's no technical real equity in this property. But because of the situation that we're in, we have a private money partner in the deal who I absolutely love, who is owed a certain amount of money on this property. So what I thought was, okay, well, would there be somebody who would be willing to take over a sub 4% interest rate with 28 years left on the mortgage for a fee that could cash out the private money partner for what they're owed? This is something that I would probably like to go down once we're able to get this lady out. Another option is potentially using it as a midterm rental and partnering with somebody who can fill that property at a higher rate than what the traditional rent is going for in the area. But the hardest thing is to bank on exit strategies that are abnormal, right? So if I were to suggest anything to any newer investors, which is probably already talked about a lot, and I just don't think people follow the suggestion, is that make sure it cash flows as a long-term rental or breaks even, or be okay with not making money or losing a little bit of money and using the depreciation in your favor. If you have a W-2 where you need to offset some income, then whatever, right? Over time, you're going to build equity, and that mortgage is going to pay down, and you're going to also build more equity on top of the appreciation of the property. The cash flow would just be a bonus at that time. So for this one, it's a tough situation, but we're going through it. We're going through the proper channels legally of what we're entitled to or what we can do. The last thing we want to do is let somebody off the hook that owes us 10 grand for the last 3 months, and then an additional $3 grand a month moving forward. Like, I'm sorry, but someone has to cover the cost of this mortgage, and it should not be us when they sign the agreement. So that's a quick rundown of one of the properties that I've gone through over the last couple months actually. With my partner, we're just trying to figure it out. So yeah, that's the update on one of the properties, and I'll catch you up to speed on what's going on with another one of our properties in a property that's close to this one, but this one's a little bit more tricky, and I'll explain it in a new video.